I bought my first car. It was a Model A Ford, and it was a good car.
Now, how old were you when you bought it?
Oh, I was already old enough to vote. Just
Okay.
about.
Did your dad have one on the farm before that?
Pardon?
Did your dad get a car before that you had on the farm?
Yeah. Oh, my dad bought his first car in 1919.
Wow. Well, how did that impact the farm? What was that like, getting the car?
Well, it made a big difference. We didn't have to go to church with the team, but other than that, the teams were used most of the time yet. I mean, those cars in the winter time, they were set aside. They weren't used in the winter. It was the horses and sled or horses and whatever. But it was different. We didn't have those cars. On the roads, there was snow sometimes. That was, oh my gosh, that wouldn't be, you couldn't use a car. There was too much snow.
How would you describe growing up on the plains? What was it like living out
What was
here?
it like to grow up?
On the plains, in this area?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, we were 15 children in the family. My mother had 15 children in 21 years. And when my mother passed away in 66, she had 272 descendants. And but by the time the last one of my sisters was born, the oldest sister already was married. And so we were only, and then one of my sisters stayed with Grandpa because she couldn't walk till she was 3 years old, and Grandpa and Grandma, they lived in the same, the house was in the same yard, just a little ways from the house where we lived. And so she was there, so we were only 13 home at one time. And then one of the boys started going to college, so it kind of, and it was only a 4-room house where we were in there. Then in 23 we built that new house, and then of course there was a lot of room, but already there was some of them gone, and so we had a lot of room. That was a beautiful home.
Where did you fit in the order of your brothers and sisters?
I was from the top down, I was the 8-1.
Okay. Can you give the order of your brothers
Oh,
and sisters?
yes.
Okay.
I've even got at home on record, I got the age of everyone, and oh yes. Yep. There was 4 girls born and then a boy. Then a girl, then we had 4 boys, then came a girl, then came another 2 boys, then came the last one was a girl.
What was it like in the winters?
In the winter time, we had to, it was mostly sled and horses to travel with. There was no car then. And we had a lot of snow sometimes, so it was not so easy to get around, but yet we had a lot of cattle, and my dad used to raise a lot of horses, and good horses, so we used to have as high as 30 horses. And some years we had as high as 9 and 10 colts in the spring, because Dad used to raise the best horses in the country and raise them and sell them. And you got good money for the horses those days. That was the transportation you had, and that's what you used to put out your crops and stuff. So in the springtime, spring works, my brother, we used to work 4 and 5 teams. We used to harness 22 horses in the morning before we went, Then we ate and got ready and went out to work. Used 4 teams to put in our crops. It was different than what it is now. There was not one tractor. And
What was your favorite season?
pardon?
What was your favorite season?
I don't know, but I think fall was about the best. I mean, it got towards where you was kind of done with your outside work, with your field work, and then you started going to school, and that was the best. I think fall was the best. Of course, I liked spring too, because that's when you could go out and catch some gophers and cut their tails off, and then you'd sell your gopher tails for 2 cents a tail. And that was your 4th of July money. You had 100 gopher tails, you had $2. That was a lot of money those days.
What were the gopher tails for?
Well, because those gophers, they were rodents, they did a lot of damage. They ruined, a lot of crop and stuff, so you caught them and you got a bounty for them. You got 2 cents a tail. But you had to kill them and bring the tail in, cut the tail off, and that was our 4th of July money.
Interesting. Who'd you take the tails to?
Well, we'd take them to in the local towns they'd buy them, then they'd take them to the county courthouse, Or you could take them directly to the courthouse and sell them there. But usually sold them like in Zealand. Somebody bought them and they just bought them and then they took them over there and they got their money.
Did you only get the gophers on your land, or did you go
You
off
could
to
go
other
any
people's
place you want to, wherever you want. There was so many of them.
The neighbors didn't care?
No, they were glad, especially those that didn't have no boys to catch gophers. Oh yeah, they were glad. When you came up and caught them around their yard, they even maybe gave you a sandwich sometimes in the daytime. A lot of times that happened.
So you had about $2 to spend on the 4th of July. What were your 4th of Julys like?
You only needed about 50 cents on the 4th of July, not even. You had money. What were they like? We had all kinds of food races, and we had, like, you'd go into they put a little money into a wash tub and water in there. You go in there and get it with your mouth, and it was all kinds of entertainment. Pony races, your saddle horse races, and it was a big day. But for a nickel you bought an ice cream cone, that was big. You maybe had 2 of those, and that was about the extent. And then, well, you needed about 10 cents for firecrackers. But you had money left. You had money for all year when you had $2.
Where would the celebrations be?
We went to Greenway. That was our town. We lived 3 miles from Greenway, maybe 3.5 miles. And so we went down there. That's where everybody came. There was a lot of people there on 4th of July. That was a big day.
Did you guys get together? Did the community get together for any other activities?
Well, no, we didn't. It was the 4th of July was the big day. And other than that, in the school programs maybe, but there was not that much going on. You didn't go to town because there was no bars at that time. There was no bars. And that was not all that much fun in those bars anyhow for me. I never did drinking.
Did your dad ever make 190?
Yes, most of the people around there made themselves some home brew or beer. They made beer, and they drank it. They liked it. When there was weddings, well, that was all with this home brew. That was mixed with. They would brown sugar and would mix some sugar water and mix it. And of course, that was a kind of a sweet drink to drink, but it had a lot of power to it. You could really get drunk on that stuff. And some of them did. Those weddings that were celebrated then, they were 2 days sometimes, and there was a lot of whiskey and food, and it was different than what they've got now. If you had $1, you could go to a dance, buy your ticket, the girl would go free, and then you could take her out for midnight lunch, and you could buy, the hamburger was a dime and the pop was a nickel, so for 30 cents you had your midnight lunch. Then you had 4 nickels for beer, but I never drank 4. But 1 beer would be enough. And then, of course, you bought a package of Sensen, because if you didn't use that, the girls didn't even dance with you. You couldn't smell from whiskey. Girls didn't drink those days. They didn't take a drink. No way did they go to the bar.
Even the women at the wedding would not have any wedding schnapps?
If some of them did, but not much. Maybe the cooks took a drink, but the women, very few of the women drank. Oh, they'd take a drink or something, but...
When families would get together and have alcohol, would it just be a drink or two, or
just maybe a drink. You know, if the older people would come visiting, you know, they would always give them a drink, you know, and then they would play cards and maybe another drink in the middle of the evening or something, but that was it.
Did anybody ever get in trouble during Prohibition?
Not in our area, but at one time they came around and they searched our place, but there was nothing there. They came around, the federal boys came around and they really went to the yard. They even looked under the header boxes and all over.
Wow.
But we didn't get, but we had two neighbors that were making that home brew all the time.
You said weddings were 2 days long. What would you do for 2 days?
Well, they would get married and then they'd come home, and then of course they would have some soup would be the one at noon, you know, and then the evening other supper. Then they would dance. They would dance in the summer kitchen or someplace, and then they would maybe sleep, and some of them maybe would sleep off their hangover, and the next day they would dance again a little. Yeah, they would dance. Some of them were 2 days. Not too much, but there were some of them.
What kind of foods were served at weddings?
Food? Okay, there was always soup and chicken, and you know, noodle soup and chicken, and of course that in the evening there was sausage and potatoes, and they served good food. And there was a lot of that kuchen, you know, and well, they had cookies and cakes, and there was a lot of food. That was different. They first started going into the halls to have those dances in the halls, maybe I would say starting in maybe 32, 31, 32, they used to, then they'd go in and rent a hall and have a dance in there, you know. So then it was only one evening dance.
So, living on the farm, what would be a typical year for you? You would start with getting the fields ready, because you guys still plant stuff?
Yes, you would start getting you'd start getting ready for spring works. Of course, you kept your horses in the barns and fed them real good and led them to water. You didn't let them run no more. And then you'd get ready, get your machinery ready, and grind enough feed so you'd have enough ground feed over spring works, and then clean your seed wheat and your seed barley and your oats that you put out. That's how it started.
And when about would that start? Would that be April-ish?
Well, it depends upon the season. Sometimes it was earlier, sometimes it was the middle of April. Okay. But sometimes it was a little bit earlier.
What kind of machinery did you have to get
ready?
Well,
first of all, years ago, we used to have just horse plows, 4 horses or 5 horses on the plow, and a horse drill with 4 horses on there. And then in 1939, they had bought the first tractor. So we had a tractor then that pulled the 3-bottom plow. But I worked for the highway department then, but some of the boys, I had brothers that were at home, and so that was one of the first tractors in the area.
Would it take you about a month to get everything ready, or just a couple of weeks?
No, in a couple of weeks everything was ready. And then you was ready to go, and you ground enough feed that you had feed over the spring works, and it was a log that you just had that little grinder and a little stationary engine on there, and you would maybe grind, would maybe take you 2 hours to grind 50 bushels of barley, maybe even more than 2 hours, but about 2 hours I would say. But you had to grind enough so you had enough feed for spring works, which took quite a bit.
And what were spring works? What did you do after the field was ready?
Yeah, you went out there and you plowed, and then you dragged it, and then you drilled, and then you had to pick some rocks. There was rocks there. You had to pick the rocks off, get it ready, you know, to harvest, and it was not easy. Then you had to repair your fences, and of course, when you was younger, you had to catch gophers.
So you would, or how long would it take you to plant all the fields you
You could do it in about 3 weeks' time.
Okay.
By then you was done.
And then you would start repairing the fence and doing those kind of things?
Then you would start getting ready to get your mowers ready and your rakes and your stuff to make hay. And your hay rakes and because then you had to make hay. You made a lot of hay. There was no alfalfa and all that fancy swatters and stuff. You had those horse mowers with a 5-horse sickle on the mower, and you went out and you mowed your hay and you raked it and hauled it into big hay rakes and brought it home and put it into big stacks, and you go here.
Okay. So that's the stuff you would be doing while your plants were growing. You'd be doing the hay and doing all that during summer.
Right. That was the summer work that you had.
Okay. And then about when would you begin harvesting?
Well, that was usually, you started harvesting maybe the 1st of August. You started cutting your grain and started binding and heading, and see, then there was no combines. You had to have a header, and you put it on boxes, then you put it on stakes, and then you staked those big stakes, and then when everything was all done, then you started threshing. I bought the first combine in that whole area in there, in the big area. I worked for the highway department, and then I was drafted, and I didn't make it. I had ulcers. And then 3 of my brothers were drafted, and then I went home and started farming with Dad because there was no more boys there that were big. And then I bought the first combine that was in that area. And that was in 1942. And I paid $1,250 for a combine. And it was a 10-foot international, real good machine combined up from Kansas. And I bought an M tractor on rubber. So I had the first combine in that area. And then in 1943, I bought a U tractor and a Baldwin combine that was a 12-foot. So I had 2 combines and 2 tractors, still single, and did custom work. $4 an acre. We could do 100 acres a day straight combining, and we got $4 an acre. And they had to haul the grain and furnish the gas. And that was real money. In the first year, I did enough custom work to pay for my combines.
Now you said that you had a header and a binder and all that.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, I'm not a great farm girl. What exactly was that like? How did those work for binding hay and all that?
Oh, well, a binder? Well, it was a piece of machinery with a platform on there and a kind of a head on there that tied those bales, and it would come up, and then it would put them together and tie them and put them on a rig. Then when you had about 5 bales on there, you dumped. Then you had a shock. You had to set them up in shocks. Oh, maybe
shocks?
Yeah, 10 bundles together in little piles. Little shocks we called them. We shocked them. And this is how you prepared it. And you had to pick up every bale and set it up. And so if it rained, that they wouldn't get run out. And this is the way you did it. It was hard work. And the header, the header had an elevator on there, and that elevated up onto a header box, and then you made a half around, and the box was full. Then you unloaded it onto a stack, and you made those stacks, and then 2 stacks apart, and just far enough apart that you could go through there with your trash machine. Then you pull the trash machine in there and trashed it. That was a lot of work, but, well, that's the way it was.
And how long would it take you to harvest?
Well, I would say in about 2 weeks or something like that, 17 days or in that area.
Would you often have to stay home from school to harvest?
No, by the time we went to school, harvest was over. You didn't go to school till harvest was over and everything done. We only had, when I grew up, we only had 7 months of school then.
So when would that start?
It's maybe September.
Okay.
Yeah, we were done with our field work by the time school started.
And where did you go to school at?
I went to school in the country school, Berlin district, 6 miles east of Zealand is where the school was. I had a little better than half a mile from the yard. It's where I went to school. And I only went to the 7th grade. I wrote my 7th grade exams, and after that I went home because we had so many horses and only one boy at home, and I had to stay home and help get ready for spring works, and so this is the extent of my education.
What was school like?
Well, we had a school teacher in all 8 grades, from the 1st to the 8th, all in one school room. Maybe 26 children involved in the room, 28, and all the grades.
And you obviously would have spoken German when you went to school?
Yeah, when we went to school, I couldn't even speak English. It was all German. And then, of course, sometimes some of the teachers, we couldn't speak German on the school ground, or else we had to stay in school. We had to stay in recess. So we'd go across the school ground, and then we'd talk German.
What was it like trying to learn English?
Well, see, I had older brothers and sisters that could talk, and it was not so hard. It was not that bad.
What was a punishment if, say, in the middle of class you responded in German?
If you had to sit in school, you couldn't play out there in your recess.
You just had
See,
to sit.
there was a noon hour recess, and you had to sit in your desk.
And what did you do on recess?
Oh, we played different games, and once we got bigger, we played ball, sometimes, but we played different games. And
do you remember what kind of games?
oh yeah, well, one we called fox and geese. We had a kind of a ring like a baseball field, kind of a round, and then this is where we went from one base to the other, and the fox would try to catch the geese, So then you had to be a fox, and it was fun. But then we played ball sometimes, and we were pretty lucky. There was a lake not too far from the school, so sometimes we went on the lake and skated on that lake a little bit at noon recess.
When you played ball, do you mean baseball?
Yeah, we played baseball. Oh yeah, there was enough kids there when we'd play.
Was baseball did you play it similar to how it's played today?
Yes, oh sure. We 3 strikes and out.
And what did you skate on the lake with? Just your shoes?
Well, yeah, with shoes, and we had some skates, and but it was usually just with our shoes. I mean, we didn't take this. Very seldom that there was some skates there. See, there was only that hour noon. By the time you had your lunch, you didn't have that much time. But we had a nice pond behind the house, and we skated there a lot. It was a nice pond there.
Did you swim there in the summer then?
Pardon?
Did you swim there in the summer?
Yes, that was a real nice swimming place. That was people came out from Zealand to swim there, and the neighbors, and we went in there pretty early in the spring and stayed and kept going until September, I think, or even in September. It was cold already, but it was a wonderful place to swim and skate, and a wonderful pond there. And we even had some bullheads in there. We'd fish in there. And now the spillway went out. The muskrats ate a hole through the spillway, and the water washed it out, and now the pond is empty. But we had a nice swimming place there. It's a nice.
What did you use as a fishing rod?
Oh, we had some of those bamboo sticks, with a hook on there and a line, and we sat there. And then another thing, we cheated a little bit. We made ourselves a net kind of frame with screen over it, and then we'd go in there and walk with that screen through the pond and catch them. And we got more at one time.
I suppose. What would you bring to eat for lunch?
Pardon?
What would you bring to eat for lunch?
School? Well, it was maybe some, a little bit of head cheese and of course, syrup bread and a cookie. And that was about the extent of it. That was your lunch. You had your sandwich, and that was your lunch. And just water to drink. You bring your water along. We sometimes, in my family, we were sometimes 6 that went to school at the same time, at country school.
And how would you all bring your lunch together?
Well, we maybe had 2 lunch pails, or maybe one big one, and then we'd sit together in school, and then we'd eat, and we got along. It was not like it's now that you had paper napkins.
What was your favorite subject in school?
My favorite subject was arithmetic and history and civics. I didn't care for spelling much, but I was pretty good though. But I liked history and I liked arithmetic.
Did you have homework in those classes?
Oh yes. Oh, you betcha there was homework. You did a lot of homework. And you had to study at home. And of course, another thing that we had to do in the winter time, we had to study our catechism, because that was important. You had to learn to pray. That was as important as learn to go to school.
And you learned to pray in what language?
German.
Okay.
Until I went to First Holy Communion with German language.
Interesting. So Mass was still said in German?
Yep. And I went to First Holy Communion right up here where the church was, right across from the Shelter Belt.
Oh.
The cemetery is still up there, St. John Cemetery.
Yep. Oh, yeah, I see it.
Yeah, that's where
Joe Walker's buried.
Yeah, right. That's where I went to First Holy Communion.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where Joe Walker is.
Yeah, so I've been there. The church, unfortunately, is gone now. So in grade school, if anybody got in trouble, no matter what they got in trouble for, did they just stay in for recess?
In grade school, if it was possible, we went out to play. And there was very few of them that we just all got dressed and went out to play. See, we had 2 15-minute breaks a day and then an hour at noon. And so the 15-minute breaks, that was just a little bit sometimes, but an hour at noon was all right.
Did anybody ever get in trouble?
No. Sometimes they had a little bit of a fight with somebody, but it was not that bad. It seemed that in our school especially, they were well behaved. There was maybe only one bully there, and then the rest of them were all.
Did you like your school teacher?
When you ask that question, it's a long time ago. Yeah, I mean, we got along good with the teachers. But in fact, 2 years I got even a candy bar once a month maybe to go up there and get the fire started in the morning. But we got along. It was different. You know, we knew that we had to behave because our parents were fathers and mothers. They were not daddies and mummies. It was different. We knew that we had to be good.
Or you got in trouble at home?
Yeah, you betcha.
What kind of chores did you have to do at home during the school year?
Okay, you got up in the morning. Once you was big enough you had to help to milk and clean the barns and get ready and feed the. There was a lot of work, chores in the morning before you went to school. We got up at 6 o'clock in the winter time and went out and started, and you'd milk and you just had to feed those horses and help to feed, and it was not that easy. And there was chickens and there was geese and there was pigs to feed, and all those chores had to be done.
And what chores did you do while you were
Well,
in school?
when you say that, as you went through an age, you went through all of them.
Okay.
You first started helping to feed the chickens when you were smaller, and then as you got bigger, you started to milk, and then you started to help clean barns and feed horses. And
how long did school go till?
the school was 7 months.
So you would be done then around
In the first week in April or something like that, you'd be done.
to get back and get the fields ready?
Yeah, oh yes.
Busy year. What kind of games would you and your siblings play at home?
Well, we didn't, when the ice was frozen, we did a lot of skating out there, and we had a hill there, we'd have sleds and we'd come down that hill, and there was a lot there. There was a lot of things to do. We had games, and then we'd go to the neighbors sometimes, and we would play there, and we got along. We entertained ourselves.
Do you remember being snowed in the winter at all?
Yes, yeah, we were snowed in sometimes. There was sometimes 2-3 days 2 days where you couldn't even go to school.
How would you take care of your animals?
Well, there was one time when they just had to stay in their barns and couldn't even feed them for a few days. It was tough. In 1923, it was tough.
That year just had a lot of blizzards?
You had a lot of snow and there was a lot of cattle that were out there in the winter time, froze. Now, you want to go to the cemetery, huh?
We can go to the cemetery first, and then go to the farm afterward.
Or we can, yeah, well, whatever.
Whichever order works the best.
Yeah, well, it's all right, yeah. You go down here another block from this, then you take a left.
Okay. So not this one, but the next one. Okay.
Yeah, one more, now you take a left here in this one. This is my brother that lives here.
Oh, right next, like
Right
you said,
here.
to the basement
Yeah,
house.
that's my brother. Yeah, here you take a left. He's a lot younger than I am. He's only going to be 89 and I'm 94.
Okay, he's a little bit younger than you.
There's the church.
Okay, that's the church you always went to?
Yeah, no, that's a new one. Joe went to the old church. This was only built a few years ago.
So when they moved, where was St. Andrew? Where was the church?
Right here where this place is. That's where the church was.
They just built a new church
They
there.
just built it. They took the old one down and built a new one in the same spot.
Okay.
A little bit to the north, but part of it is part of the old church there.
Okay. Well, let's talk about religion for a little bit.
Pardon?
I want to ask you some questions about going to church.
Okay, you ask, I can answer.
Now, you said that church was always said in German.
Yeah.
Do you remember when they shifted to English?
Yes.
Do you know about how old you are, about what year that was?
Well, I would say, let's see, Griner was here from 24. Let me figure that out. You see, here's where it goes down to the cemetery.
Oh, I wanted to go that way?
Well, this is where my grandpa, or my dad and my mom, and I have brothers and father-in-law and everybody.
Is the farm this way, though?
Yeah,
Okay.
keep going.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 miles out here.
Okay. So it was about when church went to English?
I would say it started going to English. See, they read the gospel then in German and in English maybe in 1900 and, well, let's see, once. 37, 38 is when they started kind of reading the gospel in English. But a lot of the sermons were still German. Because Father Grinder came in 23, and I think we had him 16 years, and he still had German sermons. But he had English sermons too, half and half. But, and then the reading turned into 23, 33, 30, 37, 38, I think is when it started going into English.
How did everybody react to that?
Well, the older people couldn't, they didn't, but the change came and we had to take it, I mean. It's like everything else. There was static there, but they all accepted it, and well, that's the way it was. Couldn't be helped. It had to, because people got to. And we started, with the English catechism then, and that all changed, and then German went out.
Did your priest speak the same dialect of German that the rest of the community spoke?
No, he was a High German. It was a little different, but we could understand him real well. But he was High German.
Even the kids could understand them?
Yeah,
Okay.
those kids that could understand German. Yeah, it was not so hard to understand. Like some of them, when I was in Germany, in the northern part of Germany, you couldn't understand them, but in the south you could understand them. They kind of spoke it was a little different, but I could understand them real good. See, I was in 7 different countries overseas.
You visit 7?
Yeah, I was in 7 different countries. And I was in Bosnia twice. Medjugorje I was twice.
And this is when did you do this traveling?
Pardon?
When did you go to these countries?
I went over there on a pilgrimage. It was always with a pilgrimage. We were always on a guided tour. It was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. And everybody should go over there to see how those people live, how poor those people are. Like in Rome, by the Colosseum, there's maybe 30, 40 little kids running after you wanting money. Mom is sick, need money, hungry. And they sit there and they beg for money, and then the tricks they've got. There's maybe a woman sitting there and has a baby on her lap. And when you come and then she kind of pretends it's going to drop, and you try and help her, and they rob you. They cut your hip pocket and take your money. So you got to carry your money in front or else it's gone.
Did that happen to anybody on your trip?
We had they gave us those bags to carry under here, like a purse. And we had that in there. And 2 of them, they got the zippers open, but they didn't get no money from us. But our guides knew about all that, so we were prepared. But if you didn't know it, you was robbed. Or they would have a newspaper and they would read, and then when you'd come, then they would drop it, you'd start to help, and then you was robbed.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, it was quite organized, but I got along pretty good. We stayed more. And in one, I made 2 different trips over there, but one time the guide and the bus driver could speak German, and I was the only one in the group. And they didn't know, and so we rotated seats. Every time we got into the bus, we rotated seats. And finally, I got up to the bus driver, and they were talking about that high church. And I said, ja, das ist eine hohe Kirche. And then they can you sprechen Deutsch? Then it started. And I was with him. I was in. I learned more about that country over there because I was always with them, and they wanted to be with me. They asked me more questions about the United States than I asked them about over there. And it was really, and I enjoyed it. So I was always with the bus driver and with the guide as soon as we got out of the bus. Now, the bus driver filled gas in one country over there. I don't remember what country. And I said, what is the price of gas? And he said, $6.25 a gallon, your money. So it was different. Keep on going.
Okay. You're used to driving on these gravel roads. I'm a city girl.
I used to drive on here a long time.
Did the church ever have gatherings that you guys would go to when you were a kid?
Well, not too much. One church fair in the fall and the kind of bazaar we called it, and that was it. Other than that, there was nothing. And church used to be about 2 hours when you went to church. We used to go in there with the team, and then you'd be dressed in a suit coat and all dressed, and you'd go in there, you'd go to church. It was 2 hours. There was catechism and confession, and then there was church and the benediction, everything, and it would be 2 hours. And
did you guys hang out afterward to socialize with?
No, you went on your buggy and went home. But see, we were one of the first ones out here that my dad had a car, so but I still, oh my gosh. And then of course the winter time, we came in here Christmas Eve with the team to go to church, 12 o'clock.
I suppose that was quite a feat to put 15 people on the horses to take them in.
That was never no more than about 6 on that sled. We didn't all go to church.
Oh, okay. Did you all go on Sundays, or did you alternate?
Yeah, we went on Sundays. Yeah, we went just one team full. Now I got a quarter of land, just a half a mile north from this line here, the north here, 1/2 a mile north. I got a quarter of land up here.
Okay. And the people that bought your farm, are they farming, or you're really
they're farming. He's farming big, and that's his dad that lives here. They kind of afford. They got all this land in here. Got a lot of land in here now.
Wow. Did you ever get a chance when you were a child to question the priest about anything with religion?
No. They gave their sermons, and we went to catechism. We had to study that catechism. And we were asked on Sunday mornings. We were asked those questions. We had to memorize that, and Sunday mornings we had to know that. And
every Sunday you had catechism?
Oh yes, every Sunday we had catechism. Mm-hmm.
Was there ever some people went to 2 weeks when school was done, they went to...
Yeah, we had that summer school for about 2 weeks, yeah.
That was just for the church?
Yeah, that was just for church stuff, just. Now this is where my brother lived here.
This is
That was my brother's farm, and beautiful farm now. It's all neglected, but my farm is...
Your farm's still a little bit further down?
Down here, right here.
Take a right? Okay.
Yeah, take a right. It's a mile down and then a half a mile to the east.
Oh, I can see the prairie bit.
Yeah, well, this is... see, when you look good, if it's a bright day, you can see the city of Eureka. Can you see it right through in there, kind of?
Oh, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's 15 miles in there.
Wow.
Yeah. This used to be my 80 acres of land, but I sold that with the farm. I sold a quarter and 80 acres.
So this is now with the farm still?
Yeah, but then, yeah.
But you held on to the other quarter that you had?
Yeah, I got 800 acres here.
Okay. So So are these rock piles from when you and your brothers?
Yeah, we
pile
had
them up?
those rock piles. Yeah, we had a guy. There was rocks on here, a lot of them. We had to haul rocks and dig rocks and. Now this is 1/4 of land that belongs to me, and this quarter here belongs to me.
And how many acres is a quarter?
160 acres.
And how did your parents get this land? Was it part of the homestead?
Grandpa homesteaded 3/4 and Dad homesteaded 1/4. And then, of course, he bought more land. And now stop here. Just stop. Now you can, as far as your eyes can see, you can see. See, I could open this field here with a 2-foot post in some place on the other end. And I could never work it north and south because the water would come into Fura and run out, the dead Fura and come out, especially over there a ways. So I had to work it east and west.
So they had it going the wrong way then?
Yeah, this is the way it had to be east and west.
Okay.
And it still is worked like that because north and south, there's an area down there where the water would run right down the middle of the field and wash it out. Wash it out, yeah.
Okay. So you guys you knew all those farming techniques.
Oh, you betcha. You knew that when you grew up that all was, you inherited it.
Did you do anything like rotating crops or anything like that?
Oh, yes, and you fell it ground, yeah, oh, yeah.
Even, wow. So that dated back, did your ancestors do that in Russia as well?
I suppose, and we fell it. We had fallow ground every year a little bit, not too much, but we fell it. And then, of course, there was always corn land that was almost the next thing like fallow ground. Well, you can keep on going here, but this is my quarter here. And then this quarter here. And then when we get down here to the mailbox, and then we go east. And
so when you fallowed it, that you would plant, what would you plant on it? Or would you
nothing, you kept that black.
Just black, nothing?
Yeah, you kept it, just worked it, and worked down the weeds and the stuff, and then you got a good crop. It paid, you got a good crop the next year.
You just had to rest it, you didn't have to plant something else and then grind it in for nutrients?
Yeah, well, the next year you just put in wheat or something, but it paid off. Now here's where we're going down to the farm.
Okay. What other farming? So you had wheat, you did some corn.
Yeah, we had wheat, oats, barley, and corn. Not too much corn, but wheat, mostly wheat. Wheat was the main crop. Now this quarter here, and then there's 2 quarters here in the south side, and another quarter beyond the farm that belongs to me. This is my quarter. So I sold the quarter with the farm, and that 80 acres up there.
But they farm all of this now and just pay you rent for the land?
Yeah, he pays me rent for the land. Yeah.
That's kind of what my parents did. They
Yeah,
sold the farm but kept the land.
Yeah, and I got to come down here and work my fences sometime when I get back from Chicago.
You're going to come down here and do your fences?
I maintain my fence. I come down here every year and maintain my. See, the wires are tore off here. So I got to maintain my fences. They got to be fixed. I got to come down here pretty soon. As soon as I get back from Chicago someday, I'll come down here. I'm using his pickup, and see, he's still got the cattle in the corral. He's still feeding.
Oh, so he's still
Now,
now,
stop right here.
Okay.
Just up here a little ways.
For the cattle.
Okay, now, all those buildings, they were all, in 1980, we shingled all the buildings and painted everything, and all this was taken care of on mower. We had a mower behind the tractor like the highway department has, and the whole yard, everything with that hay setch in there, everything was all mowed and all in lawn, you might say. And now look what it looks like now. And those buildings, this barn, it was a beautiful barn, all white and all new shingles on there, and everything was nice, and the pole barn, everything was nice. And then there was a pole barn down here and one up there. Now everything is
And while growing up as a kid on this, did you guys always keep the buildings?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yes. They were in mint shape all the time. Yes.
Did you paint them all? They kept
They were painted maybe every 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was beautiful farm here. And the house was built in 23. That was an outstanding house. There was 2 more evergreens, but they were so close together, so I took them out. And now that one just shut up and grew big.
And that house is from 1923.
1923. I helped to haul all the material and shingle it and everything. And when everything was shingled and painted 2 years in 1980. And since that time, no paint and no shingle, no nothing. Look how everything looks. Everything was new then.
Yeah, I'm just amazed.
Yeah, so those 2 quarters on the south side are mine, but this is the farm.
Okay.
And this was just a beautiful place then, but now it's got so much machinery here, I don't even know what it is. He farms big here and so much land.
Where would be a good place to park so we can get out and walk around the buildings?
Yeah,
Should we go up and
I'll tell you.
talk to him first?
Well, he's probably not even here. Keep driving. Keep driving.
We have a little dog coming to join us.
Pardon?
We have a little dog joining us.
Oh, yeah.
Little.
Yeah. Well, just drive in there. Just go in there.
Okay.
Yeah. Just go straight ahead.
Kirk's trying to video as we get through.
Just go just go in like that. There. That's good enough park here.
Not blocking anybody.
Yeah, we won't know whether he's probably not home. He's probably out someplace farming, maybe 6 miles from here. People come out from town, from Zealand, to come swimming in here, and that goes way. When you see that hill back there that's coming up there. Yeah. That's how far that pond went.
Oh wow!
When it was full.
And all the way up to these.
All the way up to those trees here, and the spillway was over there. It was a concrete spillway in there. And now it's all washed out and there's nothing in here, just a little water here.
You even had a diving board.
Yeah, we had a diving board in here. We had a lot of people coming swimming in here. And we went in here every evening. That was almost a must.
Did you guys have games you played in the water too?
No, you was kind of glad when you could get out and down and go to bed. You was tired. But we went swimming. We had a lot of, and this was a beautiful place. And we had hauled some sand in here, right down in this area here. And of course there was a lot of bullheads in here. And then when the muskrats ate a hole through there, and then we had to repair the bridge then, and then the water went out, and then they froze in the winter time, and then they died, and in the spring they washed out to the side. There was a lot of bullheads in here, but we had good fishing in here. We didn't use rods and reels. We made ourselves a kind of a net, and we went through and caught them and brought them out here. Then we took them down to the water trough into fresh water for a few days, so they got nice and fresh, and then we had them.
And this is the same pond you would go to from school?
Yes, yeah.
Where would your school have?
Oh, no. We had a lake up there by the school side of the school. I'll show you what the school was for me. Okay. No, we had no. This here was our, and of course, see, when you look back here, then there's a hill back there, and this is where we'd go with sledding in the hill back there. It was pretty steep coming down there, right through there. Yeah. And so this is where we then, of course, we'd go here too, but this was a nice skating place, and that's where we entertained ourselves.
How many kids would come about?
Oh, in the summertime, the neighbors would come swimming, and they'd come out from town. We had quite a few kids here, boys and girls.
I suppose, what were the girls' swimming suits like? What did girls and boys wear when they went swimming?
Well, there was quite a few swimming suits. They were full suit,
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't got mine no more, but we had swimming suits, and we got along. Of course, if there was just all boys who went in our nude, we didn't have a swimming suit then. We didn't need one. But yeah, there was. it was different then. There was no swimming pools in town, and this is the place where they had a lot of swimming in here.
You were the house that everybody came to and wanted to hang out at.
Yeah. And see, Grandpa's house was sitting right here. And then the old house before that one was sitting just in front of that one.
Okay, so your old house would have been in front of it.
Yeah, right in front of the big house down there. And then Grandpa's house was sitting right here. It was maybe the foundation up to, I don't know, maybe right in this area.
So when did his house get taken down?
His house was moved in 1924. His house went to Zealand. That's still sitting in there.
Oh,
still
they
in
picked it
use.
up and moved it?
They picked it up and moved it. And our big house is in Zealand where we was. And then we had the summer kitchen here. That went to Zealand. When we built that new house, there was this house, Grandpa's house, and our old house, and the new house, and the summer kitchen. There was 4 houses here in this place.
Wow.
And then, of course, when Grandpa moved down into our house, then they had sold this one, and the old house went to Zealand. He sold that one, and then the summer kitchen. But I already had bought the farm then before I sold the summer kitchen.
And what did this building, what was it used for?
This here's the garage. That was my garage where I kept my car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but look what it looks like now.
We'll picture it with white paint.
That
over it.
Yeah, that was painted nice and white, and the doors were up there, and they were closed, and that was, yeah.
Interesting. Well, how about we walk around to the next building around?
Well, whatever you want, you can, we'll.
The grand tour works.
Yeah, it won't cost you nothing. I want to just look in here and see once what he's got in here.
Okay.
Because this has been like that for 3-4 years. See, there hasn't been a car in here for, look at that. And this used to be there's nice cement in here.
And this is, you always kept a car. You kept your car in here once you got
Oh, yes. And I had a fish tin box in here where I had my keys. They were right here.
Never worried about anybody coming to get the keys?
Yeah, well, see, they no, I had it here, see? Nobody knew.
Hidden.
Yeah, that's still here.
I don't know if Craig can come up and get, I don't know if you're able to get a
See,
shot
this
of
is
that,
where I had my keys.
Yeah, probably not.
That's where I kept my keys for the car. Right in here. Yeah, it's different. This was cleaned out, swept out. There was nice cement in here.
Well, I suppose your parents never let you keep it dirty.
Well,
One of your chores was...
Well, we learned to keep things clean. We were brought up that way, and that's the way we stayed. Had some nice... see what I put those little shelves in here? Ay, that was big stuff.
Are those your old license plates?
Pardon?
Are those your old license plates?
No, I don't think so. I don't hardly think. Maybe they are. 74? No.
Nope. Oh, it's kind of dirty.
Yeah, they could be mine. 74, see, I moved out here. Yeah, they're mine because I moved out here in 82. I moved to
Well, that's
73.
an older one, 70.
Yeah, yeah, they were mine because he was not here at that time.
Yeah.
I first sold that farm here in 82. Yeah, that was my license plates.
Wow. Well, might as well leave them here.
Yeah.
We'll keep some party is still here.
Yeah, I. Everything is so neglected. My.
Well, let's make our way to these buildings.
Well, this was the schoolhouse where I went to school.
This was the schoolhouse?
This is where I went to school. That was the schoolhouse.
You brought it here?
We moved it down here. That was our chicken coop then.
About when did you move it down here?
Yeah, let's say, I don't remember. That's a
Okay.
long time ago. See, I went to school in the new schoolhouse, and so that was, I don't know when.
Okay.
But I don't even know whether, well, we can maybe go around here. We want to go into, see once what we see when we get to that schoolhouse. That's where I got my education. I. This was all mowed with a mower. We had all this here with the mower behind the tractor, like the highway department has.
Mm-hmm.
Aye. And see, this is my cement here. Yeah, well, that's he's got a nail shot or something up there, I don't know. And look here. That's not mine. That they brought that out here. That was, I don't know.
So this you guys use as a chicken coop.
That was our hen house. Yep, and then I had a fence here, so the chickens couldn't come all over the yard. And see, there's where they came out back there. And this was a nice fence here. Now look what's here.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Are any of these buildings around here yours?
No, he brought
These
them
were all
in.
brought
Yeah,
in?
he brought them in. That's all his stuff. Look at all the old cars he's got here.
There's a lot.
I don't know how he can have that many cars. And this is the fence I had in here. I had a nice fence in here. Now look.
This is where it was.
Yeah. But he's got so many tractors and stuff here, it's unbelievable. And divorced, but he's got a friend that comes out here from town.
Oh, no.
And I was in the house about 4 years ago, and you should see that house now comparing to what we had. We had a fireplace in there and everything. Electric fireplace. Everything is fit. Ay. I could cry.
Especially since most of the stuff was here when you were a child. That's neat.
Pardon?
Most of the stuff was either here when you were a child or when you owned the farm?
Yes. This, see, all the buildings were here, and everything was here when I was a child, excepting for the pole barns. I put them up then after I was married.
Mm.
But, and then there was a different barn here. I moved that barn in here and put that addition on there.
Okay, so that's not from when you were a child.
No, that's not. That is when after I was married already.
Okay. Well, and when did you get married?
I was only 32 years old when I got married in 1943.
Where'd you meet your wife at?
She only lived 7 miles north from here. I knew her when she was...
It took you 32 years?
Well, there were so many other ones. There were so many other ones. We had all those other ones too, and it takes a whole day to get married, so I had to take a day off. I was so busy.
What was dating like? What would you do on a date?
Hey! What did you do on a date? What did they do now?
Oh, where would you go? Where would you take her
well, there was a show every Sunday night. There was a show someplace. You'd go to the show.
Okay.
Yeah, and you went and you played cards, and it was all right. I all the cars he's got here and all the stuff they almost.
What is this building over here?
Well, this used to be the old granary, and that was the addition was put on later. This is maybe, I would say that's maybe from 1906 or maybe something like that. 1908 maybe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So about 100 years old.
Oh yes, yeah, I would think it is.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And that was nice, and I had pick up in here, in this shed here, and that was all nice shed, and everything was. This was a nice granary, real nice.
This is where all the grain would be stored.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes.
That you would. Okay.
And I.
This is still.
Leave it side now.
And it doesn't move.
I could cry.
It doesn't move.
No.
Oh, it is just grain in there too.
Yeah. Oh, just.
But you had, when you left here in '84, this would have been all filled in.
That was all fixed up and all beautiful paint, and all the shingles new, and all the buildings, all 2 years old. Yeah.
So you always hauled it back to here. That was nice and close.
Pardon?
The barn was still over there for where you kept the cattle and the horse?
Yeah, uh-huh.
So it wasn't ever too far of a walk if it was blizzarding or cold
No.
out.
It was nothing. And you know, that was all right. Those, when we were here, you're pulling some wire along.
Where were your horses at? They would have been in this corral?
In the barn there, and no, they were in the barn there. And then when they were out, this was, you know, there was a pasture here, see, and the pasture came up to that granary down there.
Okay. And
Yeah.
The cows would have been grazed here too?
Yeah, they were, you know, we'd feed them, we'd feed back there behind by the pole barn, and that area is where we fed in the winter time and whenever we fed.
Okay.
But he still got his cattle in here.
Oh, and there's a couple,
Another,
calves are free.
Yeah, another old car here.
And this building down here,
that was a nice granary, and we had it's a nice wood floor in there, and then the addition to it, that was a nice shed there. We had equipment in there, garage with pickup in there.
So you had two separate grain?
Yeah. This one was all wheat all the time, and this was all lawn. That was beautiful grass here, and that was all mowed with a big mower. And I. This is impossible. It makes me sick to see that.
The cows would eat the wheat that you had, the wheat grain that you had in here?
Pardon?
What would the cows and horses both came and got their feed out of this barn?
Yeah, the cows were the stock cows were down here in this pole barn down here.
Oh, okay. Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But my gosh, no more. There was a nice driveway here, and this was all in perfect shape. Oh, here's the workbench is still in here. That was my workbench.
You built the workbench?
Yep. Oh, yeah. I put that in here. And those shelves here.
Where would the farm equipment?
Pardon?
Where would the farm equipment be kept at?
Well, this shed here was there was a lot of in here. And also some of it was stored up where the other pole barn is up there.
Okay. So the workbench was handy for getting.
Yeah. Well, this is where I did my repair and stuff, and I had a breast drill here, and then there was a vise on there, and where this one is, there was a vise there, and hey, I think that's almost my. No, but it almost looks like my old vise that I had here.
So none of this stuff would be yours except
after this, I can die.
No.
Yeah. We had, and there's cement floor in here. Was a nice cement floor in here. It's all dirt now.
How many cattle would fit in here if you're stock
Well,
cattle?
no, we didn't have no cattle in here.
Or I'm sorry,
No, we had, in here we had like our plows stored and the drill, and then no, we had, but I put my pickup was sitting in here. This is where the pickup was.
and
See,
then on the
we
other
always
side
we had 2 cars, see.
on the other side of this wall would have been.
That was grain in there.
Okay.
It was filled with wheat. Yeah.
Wow.
Ay, ay. That's enough to make me sick, what I see here now. I don't know where he accumulated all that stuff from. There was nothing behind here. This was absolutely, we went by here with the lawnmowers. There was lawn here, beautiful lawn. And like those trees here, those volunteers, they were not here. Just the shelter belt was here, but that stuff here.
That building isn't yours? Wasn't yours? He brought that in?
Yeah, I built that one, yeah.
You built that one there?
I built that, yeah.
And what would you use that one for?
That was for my loose cattle. I had as high as 95 in a stock house. And then there was a partition where the little door is, and it was off about so high that the calf could crawl in the back and sleep there, and the old ones had to stay out there.
Oh, neat. So it was just for the loose ones that.
Yeah, that was for the stock house. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, the milk house stayed up there at the other end.
They're always kept different. What would you use the stock cow for then?
The stock house to raise calves and sell the calves and make money.
Okay.
That's for the stock house. He's got all stock cows here.
None of these are milk cows?
No,
How would you
No,
tell?
he used to milk. He used to milk, but he quit when his wife left him, and then he quit. He didn't stay with the milk.
How do you tell the difference between the milk cows and?
Pardon?
What's the difference? You said these are the stock cows.
Well, milk cows usually those Holsteins with big backs,
Okay.
and the stock cows are those black ones here and the red ones, and those with not as much milk, and they have a calf. They have a calf, by them, see?
Okay.
And the milk cows, you take the calf away and you feed the calf.
Craig, I'd probably stop. I don't know if this is a mom or what this is, but she's staring. I don't know what she's going to do.
This one here?
Yeah, I don't know what she would do.
Well, see, we're strangers, and they know that.
Yeah, so I don't know if she's going to get too protective.
No, you needn't worry. They don't.
See, now my Uncle Randy had his knee blown out by cows.
Oh?
He was moving him in a truck, and it kicked and got his knee.
Yeah, they can do damage. Now here, this is the most interesting building is right this one up here. We'll go to that, and then I'll tell you what that was.
Okay.
This used to be beautiful lawn here. We just come around here and.
As long as you stay away, they'll be okay.
Yeah, they're scared.
Okay. Horses I'm good around. I've been around them. I haven't been around a lot of cows.
It is.
You're right there.
I don't know where you can accumulate so much junk. I just don't know. Look at all the oil filters here.
Wow.
Now this used to be, it had a shed roof, it had a sloped roof on there. It didn't have this roof on here. But this is where my dad put it on that was the shandy when he homesteaded his quarter of land. That I showed you, said there's a quarter of land up there when we came. That's where Dad homesteaded. And this used to be their house. And then this used to be the house, yeah. And
oh, it's all storage in here now. But this whole thing was their house.
that was their house, yeah.
For how long was this their house?
Well, I don't remember. I wouldn't know. I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
But Gott am Himmel. Yeah, that was the old. Yeah, we'd better close the door.
Craig, I think it's going to be a quick shot.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
So just your dad was in here, or your dad and your mom lived in
Oh,
here?
yes, and they had 3 children.
In this one?
Well,
before
actually, what happened, they would only have to be in here, I think, 1 day a week or something like that in order to qualify for the homestead.
Okay.
And they were over here then in the house that was before the new one was built in 23. So they was in there. Grandpa had that house that was pretty big, and so they stayed in one house. And I think they had 3 children before they finally, Grandpa built his house then.
Wow.
Grandpa built a smaller house then, so. But this usually, that's where my dad homesteaded that quarter of land over there. But it had a shandy roof, you know, see?
Okay.
Not like this, so Dad put that on then later. But this is what it was.
So your grandfather would have immigrated over to the U.S.?
Yes, and Dad was 16 years old when they came, and Mom was 12.
Oh, wow. So they were older.
Yeah.
How did they like the homesteading? I know in Russia they were able to live together.
Yeah, but
affect
Dad didn't say much about that.
Okay.
What I learned is when I slept with Grandpa and then the old neighbor would come down, and they lived up there where I said that's my brother's farm up here a mile north, and they would talk about the old. I learned a lot about that, but Dad just didn't talk about it.
Okay.
I don't know. I didn't hear my dad say one word about the old country.
Did you hear stories from your grandpa?
Yes, Grandpa and old Yaninsky, they talked about it.
What kind of stories would they share?
I'll tell you, if it was something that I was not supposed to, they said it in the Russian language and I didn't understand it. But that was some of the stuff, and one time they said something, and then the next day when I walked to school, when I was about half up there, I figured it out. Wait a minute, that's what it was.
Did you hear any other good stories?
Well, they would talk about different things, yes, about the old country, and it was different. A horse thief in Russia was like a bank robber here. That was the biggest criminal there was.
Okay.
Because those horses were so precious, and they stole them and took them for miles. A lot of times they had a big dog tied in the door by the barn, and they would cut a hole in the back end and take the horses out. And take them, and it was really, because they all lived in a colony, and then they had like their barns out there where their farmland was. They had maybe 20 acres or 30 acres. And how they trashed their grain is they would put it into they made a kind of a form, and they threw that weed in there, and then they put the horses on there, and then they trample it out, and then they let it kind of do. When the wind blew, they kind of let the chaff blow out, and then they took the wheat. Now the Russian government got so tough over there that they only allowed them so much wheat, you know. Then what they would do, they would drill a hole in the sill in the house and fill the walls with wheat, and then take the mopboard off and take some out and cook it. In 1927, a guy moved over from Russia and he went to Montana, and he raised beets, and I had a beet contract with him for 3 years to top the beets. And he couldn't drive a car, but he bought a new car. His son lived in the same yard, so I drove him around a lot, and he told me a lot of things. It was so bad over there that those big shots, they had good feed for their horse and everything. They would bring that horse manure in and take the oats out and cook soup. It was so tough. My grandpa, this old guy there, he had to run away or else they would have killed him.
Wow.
He told me one story where one morning it was cold, and he chopped the ice out of the trough and watered the cows. He had 6 cows or 5 cows. And then pretty soon the communists brought a young priest out there, and he was bleeding and naked. And they took him out to the watering trough and kept pouring water on him, ice water. And he said he had to hide or else they would have taken him too. And then finally they took him away. He didn't know what it did with him. But he was bleeding and naked, and they took him like that.
Wow.
He told me a story where they boarded the windows shut in a church, and then they put the people in there, those men, the good, able-bodied men, and about 6 communists would stand out and would more pitmans. That's a kind of a piece of iron about so long and a kind of a head on there.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought them out one at a time and then you knocked them down.
Wow.
He told me a lot of things.
So did many people in this community have the desire to go back to Russia?
No.
Okay.
No, nobody. No. They were glad they were over here. They were happy. Like I say, my dad never talked about it. I don't think I heard him say 6 words about the Russia over there.
Mm-hmm.
About, games that they played or companionship or something. No, never. Grandpa and old Yaninsky, they talked about it, but no. And then, of course, Grandma, Mother's mother, kind of stayed with us, and sometimes she talked a little bit about it. But that was all. But Dad never, and Ma never. She was 9 years old when they came, or 10, I think, but she never talked about it. Oh, occasionally she'd say something, but not much. They were glad to come over here.
Mm-hmm. They express it. Wow.
Well, so now you took the tour. Now you got the tour. Now it won't cost you nothing. That was free.
All right. That works.
But I, when I see all that stuff, all that all accumulated here from 1900, and he moved in here in 84.
That's about 25 years.
Yeah, and look what he did here. All this chunk and all that is impossible. That you can, and I don't know. All those cars, and I was in the house about 4 years ago. We had beautiful cupboards in there and real nice rugs and stuff. That looked so terrible I could have cried when I walked out, so I just don't want to go in there.
They are quite skittish animals.
Pardon?
They are quite skittish animals.
Yeah. I don't know why he still got him in here, why he hasn't got, of course, I can see where the fence is down, but that doesn't make no difference. There's nobody around. Now, this is still the same water system. That's an old dryer that we had. The dryer caught fire in the basement in the house here, and it burned out. Then I brought it out and set it on this water system here. It's a monitor outfit, and it's still sitting on here. And in 1966, when we had that big snowstorm, the snow was up to about the second brace up there, and that and that kept going, and the fountain was underwater under snow, but the day before it melted, and there was water in the creek down here, so the kettle drank down there. So, but this one kept going; it never stopped. And I had a real severe stomach hemorrhage, and I couldn't go no place, and I hemorrhaged. I had ulcers so bad. I had to just lay here and live it. And then, of course, the wife, Phyllis, said, well, I'm going to watch you, if you. And so she went up and went to bed and fell asleep with the clothes on, and I sat on the stool and fainted. I was out. I don't know how long. All of a sudden, I got to, and I saw a shiny thing there in the bathroom, and see, it was a laboratory that had an open, with a gooseneck down there.
Okay.
And I saw that, and then I saw something, and I looked, and I didn't know, and finally I got to, and was I glad. Then I woke her, but she said she's going to watch me. She watched.
She watched you in her sleep.
Yeah. So this is it. But this, oh my, the way it looks now comparing to what it was when we were here.
You have this?
There's where the well is down here.
Oh, so they filtered it.
Yeah, this is, so the pump is 6 feet down here. Where the white one comes in. But see, here's the fuse box.
Yeah, I see the fuse box. Mm-hmm. But it wouldn't have been covered like this.
Well, evidently I know this, yeah. This can come off. I put that on to protect it.
Oh, so you wouldn't run into
the
fuse box.
So it could be protected, yeah.
I see.
Yeah. So that's it. Now you saw my old homestead where I was where I was raised.
Now, obviously having 15 siblings, or 14 siblings, and then you on this farm,
Yeah.
there had to have been some close calls between the children and animals or farming, where they would have gotten hurt or gotten scared by an animal.
You know, see, those animals were so used to us. They were, but now remember this, a horse knows people better than anything in the animal. They knew when a stranger came. We had all those horses all the time. Dad sold a lot of horses and raced a lot of horses. And a horse knows people better than any animal, better than a dog. They were smart. And in 1919, Dad and a neighbor by the name of Schaefer bought a stud horse for $2,800.
That's a lot of money.
Yes. And then in 1920, Dad bought a stud horse for $1,800, a loon. And so we would breed as high as 125 mares a year, 120, and charge $25 for a colt. And so we were busy. And we had sometimes as high as 10, 11 colts in a year. And then Dad would sell those. And I remember he sold some for $350 a horse.
Wow.
Yeah, just work horses.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. So you guys never had any major accidents out here on the farm?
No. Dad got bucked off of one. He tried to ride one and she bucked him off and he was injured. He was laying in bed for a while. He was pretty much injured, but he came out of it. And I was riding the stud horse and he bucked me off right by the well here and stepped on me. So I was kind of hurt too for a while, but
I suppose.
Not that bad. It was not that bad.
Those horse kicks can hurt though, and those horse kicks
can hurt. And we had a pair of skis, and then we would put a rope on the saddle horse, on the saddle, and one would stand and take that rope and stand on the skis. Then we go to the neighbors. Straight down here, just a mile down is where our best neighbors lived, and we went just straight on. When the horse galloped down, and you stood on the skis back there. That was fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah. So we had an entertainment. We grew up with, and 4 of my brothers went to high school and college, and 4 of us farmed. So it and the oldest one went to college. He was real young yet, and he went to college. He went to Eureka, and then he went to Fargo to college. And one of my other brothers went to Sioux Falls to high school in Glencross, South Dakota. That's where my sisters had a store, their husbands. He went to school there, and then he went to Sioux Falls to college. And then one of them, he was drafted, and then he came back. Then he went to college in Warburton, took up an electrical course, and he was the electrician in the radar station in Findlay for 23 years, and he was just buried a week ago Saturday.
Wow.
He was young at 88 years old.
That's a way to think about it.
Yeah, well, you know, when they say, now I am the oldest of all the relatives on both sides. Grandma on mother's side was 92 and 4 months when she passed away. And I am the oldest of all the relatives now.
That's how old?
94.
94.
I was 94, April the 14th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Still doing well.
Oh, yeah. I still dance.
Where do you go dancing at?
Well, we still have some of those polka fests and stuff, you know, and I dance. I still like old-time stuff, you know. And you know why I like to dance? You can hold the woman as tight as you want. Nobody has nothing to say. Because you're dancing, see? Is that okay?
Do you want it not on tape?
No, well, what's the difference? What's the difference? It's fun.
So what kind of role did radio have then? Since you like music so much, what was it like when you got the radio?
A radio, the first radio we got was years, and I don't remember, no. It was already in this house. It was after 23 or maybe 24, 26. And it had a bunch of batteries and stuff, but it worked, and you only maybe got one station, Yankton. But it was all right. I mean, that's all we got. That's all we got.
What programming? What was your favorite thing to listen to?
Yeah, well, there was a lot of singing on there then, you know, and music that we liked, and it was different. There was news, but it was a lot of batteries and stuff, and you had to charge. You had car battery. You had to take that out and charge it every once in a while, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But we got along. I grew up. Those that never did nothing, they're all in the tombstone, already with the tombstone over their head. Well, I'm still here going.
Guess that's a good message. Keep yourself busy.
Yeah.
We just interviewed Peter Kraft, and he seems to be the same thing, keeping himself busy.
Oh, Pete Kraft?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we head to the cemetery now? Let's do that.
Okay. It's on our way to town.
It is. That'll work out perfect.
In 82 and in 84, the wife passed away. A beautiful, beautiful home in Linton. But I sold it, and in 94 and moved to Bismarck for 4 years, and then I came back to Linton. I didn't like it up there.
How come?
Well, I mean, there was so much traffic then, and my friends were in Linton, and then you, up there, regardless where you went, you had to use your car, and down here I walk, and I walk 2-3 miles a day, and in the winter time I go on the treadmill 2 miles a day. I go on my treadmill every day. It's almost like eating.
Oh, that's why you're still going strong at 94.
Well, if that helps, I'll keep on going. I won't quit. Yeah, he's got a mess here. Inside now.
So when did the house get electricity?
The house it was built in 23, and in 25 Dad put in a light plant at 32 volt. So we had electric lights in the house and in the barn. We had it wired to the barn. And then we didn't get REA until 47. 47 we got the big, we used the big equipment. But we had 32 light plant motors, and we had wash machine electric, and it was all right. But in 1923 the house was built, and in 25 we put in that light plant.
What was your family's reaction to the electricity?
What was
your family's reaction to it?
Oh, mine, I mean, you know, electric lights in the house. Well, we had kerosene lamps, but I mean, it was so handy then. You just switched the lamp. That was it. And there was very few people around here that had electric lights by that time.
Was anybody in your family a little bit afraid to flip the switch? Worried about it? Scared of electricity?
No. No.
How did the Great Depression in the 30s impact you guys?
In the 1930s, yes, I put out 3 crops, and I never took a harvester out. Never had nothing to harvest.
The drought was too bad?
Yeah, that was so bad, nothing grew. So we would go to California, maybe the 2nd or 3rd of June, we'd go down there, and then we'd start working. First of all, we would tin beans, and then we worked for a big farm outfit, and I drove the first RD2 tractor on track. Brought it out from the factory. They brought their stuff out there. They kind of used that farm for their experiment. And then I pulled the first swatter that they built. The first swatter, I used that too. We worked there for 3 seasons. We would work in California. From the beans, we'd go to the harvest fields, and then we'd come to Washington, the state of Washington. And we would work in the harvest fields there, and then we picked hops, and then we picked apples. I picked $2,600 of apples for one man. That's over 3 carloads. 640 boxes, or 624 boxes, 2 carload. So I picked over 3 carloads for one guy.
Wow.
And I got 5 cents a box, and 153 boxes. I made $7 a day or a little better. That was more than the governor made out there.
A day?
That was
Wow.
top wages.
For a day, that was a lot.
Yes.
You said we went out there. Who all went?
Well, it was always, like my brother, and then
Which brother?
Joe, the one he moved to Blue Earth, Minnesota. That's where he spared. He died many years ago. He died young. He was just a year and a few months older than I was.
Okay. Keep on. Who else? Just you and your brother went?
Yeah, and then some of the neighbor boys. We'd be 5 in the car, and
You guys would drive out there?
yeah. Oh yes, yeah. I bought a Model A in 1934, and I drove that one out there. Drove it out there twice, and we would work in the harvest fields in Washington. Then after that, we picked hops, and then we picked apples, and then from the apples, when we were down there, we'd come to Montana, and then we would work in the beet fields. I beet contract, top beets, and so it was June when we left and came back in October. But we maybe had $350, $400 money saved up.
From June to October of working.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, the beets, they were late. And then I'd buy more seed and put in another crop and still didn't make it. So, but a quitter never wins, and a winner never quits. And I never quit. And then in 1939, I started working for the highway department. I lived in Wishick for 3 months. Then I moved to Ashley, and I worked for the highway department for 4 years. So I drove snow plows and bladed roads, and I was the assistant engineer down there, set up snow fences and stuff, had people working under me. So I did good. I was always making money, and I did all right. I'm happy that the good Lord was so good to me, kept me enough health that I could keep going.
And for how many years did you go down to California?
3 years.
Wow. So wasn't your dad still on the farm though?
Oh yes, yeah, Dad.
How did it impact him?
Pardon?
How did the 30s impact his farming?
Well, it was tough, but they made it. He made it. He didn't lose his land. He had 1,400 acres of land there, and he didn't lose any. And he did all right. He was.
He never had to work for any of the New Deal programs. He never had to do the WPA or the CCC.
I worked one shift, and that was all. And I worked for Dad on Dad's place. That was it. That's all the assistance that my dad got, that our family got.
Wow. What was the relationship like between you and your dad?
Well, there was not this going to the bar and drinking with him and stuff like that, but we talked, and but not all that much. Dad was kind of independent, but he was a good manager, and he was a good carpenter. He was a real good carpenter, and he could do things, and I did a lot of carpenter work in my days. Now in the house that I built in Linton, the basement was and I put in the cupboards, and then the place over the garage, it was just an open attic up there, and I put 2 beautiful rooms up there, and electric heat and fans, and I got a beautiful home in Linton, built a beautiful home in there. In fact, the time I built it, it was maybe the best home in Linton. But now maybe some are better in there, but I don't know whether I would trade it for anyone. But I wouldn't have sold yet, but the children were after me, Dad, why do you want to be in that big house? 3 bathrooms, 3 bedrooms and an office and a beautiful kitchen in the basement and a big living room down there and a kind of an office, and it was big. So I sold and moved to Bismarck, but I didn't like it.
With your dad, if you did something that made him happy, made him proud, how would he show you? How would he tell you?
I'll tell you what. My dad would say, "Maybe tomorrow you're going to get it. Tomorrow you're going to get it." And that took so long before tomorrow came. But he was not all that, but what he said, he meant. When he said go, there was no talking back or there was no hesitation. It was go. And but he was a good provider, and we had kind of, you might say, a little better living than a lot of the neighbors. We had good clothes, and we always had good food, enough to eat, and I think we had it good comparing to some of the neighbors. There was enough food all the time, and it was not bad.
Was your mother a good cook?
Yes, she cooked a lot of dumplings and a lot of noodles and made a lot of kuchen and baked a lot of bread and yes, she was a good cook.
What was the favorite meal of yours what was your favorite meal?
Yeah, when you say that, I think to me, I would say it was maybe this baked rice and dumplings, and I was not too big a meat eater. I ate meat, but I liked rice, and I still do. I still make a lot of rice. In fact, when we have I belong to 3rd degree nights, 4th degree nights, and then I belong to the Germans from Russia and to the foresters. And the Germans from Russia, when we have our meetings, we've got potluck, and I'm the guy that brings the rice. Now here, we're going to go down to the cemetery when we get up here a ways.
Okay. What was your least favorite meal that she would make?
Pardon?
What was your least favorite meal that she would make?
Well, I didn't care so much for like I don't know, I would say cheese buttons. I didn't care much for them. That's where you go south. There was some, but other than that, when you was hungry, you ate, you didn't. And there was no such a thing as 3-5 different kinds, or you'd say, I don't like that cereal, I want something else. There was maybe oatmeal or cream of wheat or cornflakes or something. When I worked in the store in 1924, cornflakes, the big box was 17 cents and the little box was 11.
Oh.
And if somebody got a baby, they'd come in and they'd maybe buy 10 yards of gray flannel for diapers, and that was 5 cents a yard. But they would maybe buy 3 yards of white for Sunday diapers. That was it. And oatmeal, and cream of wheat, that was the big thing. That was cornflakes sold also. But that was the price. And there was no bakery bread yet. The bread first came in 28. The truck started coming to Glen Cross from Oak Ridge.
And did your mom start buying bread then, or did she still make her own?
No, the only time they bought bread is when they went over to Glen Cross to see the girls. They'd buy a loaf of bread in the Harriet and some sausage to eat. No, they didn't. I don't think that my mother bought one loaf of bread.